Welcome back to the Alabama Power Halftime Report presented by Alabama Power, always on. It's time now for our Bulldog Conversation. With that, here's Nathan Troost.
I'm sitting with Sarah Latham. She is the Vice President for Operations and Planning here at Samford University. It's great to be with you.
Thank you very much.
Now, as the Vice President of Operations and Planning, you wear many different hats, but recently you've been involved a lot with the process of the recertification through the NCAA. Can you talk a little bit about what exactly that is and what it means for Samford?
Every 10 years, universities have to go through recertification. It's a review process to make sure you're complying with all the NCAA rules and regulations, and it makes sure that you're just following best practices. So this year was our year to go through that, and I was selected to chair this process.
Now, as chair, what does that mean for you? What are you doing?
I pulled together a steering committee, and that represented folks from around the campus. And we had several subcommittees, and my role was sort of to keep us on track, keep us on time, communicate with the NCAA, make sure we understood what was expected, review drafts, and those sorts of committee things.
Now, recent news around campus is Bob Roller, our athletics director, leaving. How does that affect the certification process, and how maybe does the certification process affect our search for a new one?
Well, you know, we're late in the certification process. We had our on-site visit in October, and then our final decision about our certification will come down in spring. Bob was a tremendous help through the certification process, and he also led the process 10 years ago, so he had that familiarity, and he was an amazing help. So while we will miss Bob tremendously, his timing in terms of certification was good because he made sure we were at a certain point in the process before leaving.
Does this affect at all the search for a new athletics director, the whole outcome of the certification?
I think that it has a positive impact. I think anyone coming into Samford now knows that the university's athletic department has just gone through a really intense examination for any areas for improvement. We've developed improvement processes, so I think it's a really ideal time for someone to come through since we've just examined all of that.
Okay, now obviously this involves a lot of athletics, but what does it mean maybe, I guess, for the rest of the university as a whole?
Well, you know, the thing that I think is valuable about the NCAA certification process is it makes sure that you're following best practices, but ensuring that student athletes are students first, that we're following the best practices for ensuring that they do well in the classroom, they grow intellectually, and I think that's really an important aspect because that's what we're about as a university. So it has widespread impact and widespread involvement from faculty to staff to students. It's really been a university-wide endeavor.
Now, because you mentioned you chaired up a committee. Now, did that committee involve students and faculty from
all
all across campus?
It did. We had students, faculty, staff, student athletes were on both the steering committee as well as on each of the subcommittees. And then when the on-site team came, they interviewed people from throughout the university to really understand how we operated our athletic program, if we were following best practices, if we were complying with the tons of different regulations, and it really is a university-wide process.
Now, say the students involved in this, what was, aside from being on the committee and answering some questions, what was perhaps their role, and what specifically were some things that they did?
They helped review the drafts that we turned in. They helped serve as sort of panels to get feedback from in preparing our report, examining how we go about operating our athletic program. Their voice was really heard. And then when the on-site team came, they were involved in panels, review panels. So they really were kind of the sounding board to give an honest appraisal of how we do as an athletic program.
Okay. Now, the process, I think you mentioned, is still going on. When does it conclude, and what are you hoping, I guess? Do they announce the results, or how all does that work?
What will happen is we have one final report that we submit in December. And after that, then the NCAA will take the report that was developed from the on-site team, our additional documentation, and then they will vote on our recertification. And the word will come down in spring, and it will be announced from the NCAA and our communications folks as a press release. So there's still a few months before we kind of find out the final verdict, but from all indications, the on-site visit went very well, and all the hard work from folks really paid off.
So positive expectations, I'm sure, all around.
Yes.
Now, is there a place, in closing, we're about out of time, but is there, perhaps if people want to learn more about this or the whole Department of Operations and Planning, is there a place that they can go?
Yes, absolutely. You can go to ops.samford.edu. In addition, you can go to the athletic department website, and there's a plethora of information on there. And Dr. Westmoreland has done a good job in his first of the month emails to update folks, and I'm sure as we get later in the process, he'll have a few updates as well.
Excellent. Well, great. Again, I am sitting with Sarah Latham. She is the Vice President of Operations and Planning here at Samford University. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Bulldog Conversation on the Alabama Power Halftime Report. Back to the second half in just a moment. This is the Samford Sports Network.